It's Monday, August 22. In the headlines, police working on security plans for the new school year. 16 Jamaicans awarded Chevonning scholarships. Regionally, layout workers urged to take the offer from the Antiguan government. And in sports, West Indies loses ODI series to New Zealand. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says his administration will be working to revise legislation to protect and preserve the country's natural resources. His comment follows news that an operator found guilty of removing sand illegally in Great Bay, St. Elizabeth was fined $50,000. Mr. Holness toured the area along with Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Matthew Samuda, and representatives from relative state agencies.
The mining took place in an area that provides a natural habitat for various birds and fauna. It also houses a sand dune, a natural infrastructure that helps to prevent flooding. Senior Manager at NEPA, Richard Nelson, explains.
Then behind me, what you're seeing here is one of the pond systems in the Treasure Beach area. The entire pond system in Treasure Beach are all interconnected. So in periods of heavy rain, the entire system is just one biological system working. And then in the back, you are also looking at the forest hills, which whenever it rains, all that flood waters passes down and then gets trapped here because of the dune, and it does create the unique habitat for wetland birds.
Minister with a portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Matthew Samuda, explains that the area is a part of the Treasure Beach ecotourism sector. He knows the need for its protection and sustainability.
Your bird population is extremely strong here, and I believe this is a great model for community tourism, for ecotourism, so that persons can come and see the beauty that is Jamaica. And I think this is something that is worthy of protection, which is why under your direction we'll be taking some steps.
According to NEPA, the removal of the sand would have necessitated the issuance of an environmental permit under the Natural Resources and Conservation (NRCA) Act. However, no mining license nor environmental permit was issued for the area where mining occurred. Mr. Holness says while due process was followed, the fine was inadequate in comparison to the danger the action poses to residents.
So clearly the fine is outdated, and the risk analysis of cost benefit would be clearly they would have made significant profit from the sand and paid a paltry fine. So as Minister of the Environment and supported by Minister Matthew Samuda, who's doing an excellent job of being on the ground and following through. It is clear that the government has to take action, legislative action, in increasing the fines.
Mr. Holness says there is a need to preserve the country's natural assets.
There are some people who believe that exploiting our natural assets is, a form of wealth creation. But if it is done improperly, it is also a part of destroying our economic assets and wealth. So this pond system, as was described, is here for protection of people who live across the road, to protect their property. It prevents against flooding.
Reporting for PBCJ, I'm Danita Rodney.
As the Jamaica Teachers Association celebrates its 58th conference under the theme Revisiting the Foundation, Building Our Human Capital Through Equitable Educational Opportunities, Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams concedes there is too much inequity in the education system.
They tell me that what exists is not what we all want. There's too much of a gap between the best and the unsatisfactory. Too much of a gap in exam performance. Too much of a gap in infrastructure. Too much of a gap in alumni support. Too much of a gap in resources, and too much of a gap in the most important area, parental support. We have to close these gaps, and quickly, if we want to have a hope of really accelerating our human capital in a sustainable way.
Minister Williams says that over the years, changes have been made to address some of these issues.
We've implemented changes in the national curriculum and are engaged in a transformation process to develop the cognitive and social skills of our students. We've seen the establishment of community colleges, an increase in the number of universities and other institutions offering tertiary level training, and our young people being better trained to take their place in the global economy. Over the decades, with an increase in population size and improvements in the social infrastructure, there has been the creation of infant, primary, and secondary schools in the far corners of the island.
She notes that her ministry is focused on making education more accessible to all children by 2030, the year government has designated for Jamaica to become a developed country. She underscored the role teachers and the Jamaica Teachers Association plays in helping shape policy and their support in educational transformation within the country. Minister Williams was speaking at the JTA's church service held at the Tarrant Baptist Church. The JTA hierarchy, led by outgoing President Winston Smith and incoming leader LaSonia Harrison, along with acting Chief Educator Kassan Troop and other senior figures from the ministry, were in attendance. Also in attendance was opposition spokesperson on education, Damien Crawford. The new school year will start in less than 2 weeks, and Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says the force has been working on security plans for the new term. Commissioner Anderson says the Police High Command will be implementing measures to protect students, especially those who have to attend classes in troubled communities. He told Radio Jamaica News that special attention will be given to the security interests of students in large urban centers. 16 Jamaicans have been awarded the 2022 Chevonning scholarships to pursue master's degrees in the United Kingdom. The scholars were selected from an extremely strong shortlisted cohort of about 50 who were chosen from a wider candidate pool of more than 400. Chevonning is the UK government's international awards program aimed at developing global leaders. This year's batch of scholars will increase the Jamaican alumni to more than 280 since 1984. Our very own Gabrielle Thompson-Jackson is an awardee, and she shares with us what this scholarship means to her.
I am absolutely thrilled, really excited, but mostly proud to have been awarded a Chevonning scholarship. This will allow me to pursue a Master of Arts in Producing at the world-renowned Met Film School. I look forward to honoring Jamaica and the Caribbean's rich cultural diversity, and I want to do this by fusing history and entertainment, prioritizing cross-cultural broadcasting, and contributing to cultural exhibition and preservation. I also intend to contribute to the reformation of Jamaica's public broadcast sector, and persons are really aware of that because they are hearing me now inside the news on PBCJ, which is Jamaica's public broadcaster. And I want to do that by, again, prioritizing cross-cultural broadcasting, honoring our local language and culture, improving accessibility, broadening the diversity of program offerings and genres, and really contributing to ensuring that our culture, our way of life, our history is preserved and showcased. I am looking forward to the sights I'll see, the people I'll meet, and the food I'll get to eat.
Gabrielle will be doing her master's in producing at the Met Film School in London. Mrs. Thompson-Jackson is currently a production assistant here at the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. In the business report, the Bank of Jamaica projects economic growth for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Denita Rodney is at the business desk.
Despite the recent increase in inflation rates, the Jamaican economy continues to perform credibly. This is according to the Bank of Jamaica's Governor Richard Biles.
There are signs that the economy expanded strongly in the June 22 quarter, and so far the same in the September 22 quarter. The labor market has also continued its exceptional performance. At April 2022, the unemployment rate fell to a historic low of 6%.
During the BOJ's digital quarterly media briefing on Friday, Governor Bowles goes on to speak of the country's projected GDP growth for the coming fiscal years.
For the fiscal year 2022-23, the bank projects real GDP growth in a range of 2.5% to 4.5% and in a range of 1% to 3% for the financial year 23-24.
He says the bank anticipates that growth will continue to be driven by the services industry, the agricultural sector, and resumption of production at the Jamaica alumina plant. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, August 19, the US dollar sold for an average of $151.78. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $119.97. The pound sterling traded for $179.51, and the euro sold for an average of $152.90. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Friday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 3,211 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 32 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 3,292 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All-Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,420 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 36 advanced, 58 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and the AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Traded firm were Cargo Handlers Limited, Dollar Financial Services Limited, and Epley Caribbean Property Fund Limited SCC. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: Sagicor Real Estate X Fund Limited with over 200 million units, Supreme Ventures Limited, and Jamaican Teas Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the only active security with over 90,000 shares being traded. 0 securities were traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, the people of Guyana will soon benefit from cheaper and reliable energy as the ruling administration expects to begin receiving bids for the establishment of a gas-to-energy project in early September. Reports are that the establishment of the project will see Guyanese only paying half of what they pay per kilowatt, as it will only cost the country about 4 to 5 cents per kilowatt hours compared to the 20 cents it is now costing. In market data for oil prices were largely steady as a relatively tight global supply picture competed with fears of a recession and a rising dollar. Brent crude futures fell 34 cents to $96.38 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down 42 cents at $90.35. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Prime Minister Gaston Brown has urged former Layat workers in his country to take the government's offer of 50% severance payments. He reminds the workers that the government has no legal obligation and says that even if it did, they would get less than the offer presently on the table.
The offer that we made is not an indefinite offer. And I want to remind them, you can make all the noise you want in the public domain. The reality is there is absolutely no legal liability on behalf of the government of Antigua and Barbuda. And if we say to you, we don't owe you nothing, but we give you 50% of your money, what noise are you making with us? And in any case, even if there was a legal liability, it would have been limited to the extent of our shares. And we only own 32%. We're giving you 50%. What nice, what moral authority they have to be critical of my government? So they better think strategically and hold the unions accountable, because one of the problems is that these unions are they are politically tied. In the case of the Antigua Workers Union, they're tied to the UPP, and they don't want to see this matter settled. They don't care that the workers that they're suffering. They are creating a false sense of security and an expectation of 100%. Even if there is a change of government, and there's unlikely to be one, UPP can't raise $120 million to pay them. So that's a pie in the sky promise, and if they want to hold on to that, well, they can go right ahead, because they end up being a mirage and they end up with nothing. So we have offered them a very generous offer, and I want to appeal to them to accept and let us move forward. Let's settle this issue. Again, we accept no legal liability. We're doing this as a government that really truly cares and want to bring them some relief.
President of Guyana, Mohamed Irfan Ali, departed from Trinidad and Tobago on Sunday to return to Guyana. The president and his family were in Trinidad and Tobago for a state visit for the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amy Brown, said the visit was successful. TTT Live has more.
President of Guyana, Mohamed Irfan Ali, received an official state send-off. Shortly after his arrival to the Piarco International Airport, the president was escorted to the saluting dais for the national anthems of Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago to be played by the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force. The president was then escorted to the aircraft by the acting president Christine Kangaloo, her husband Kuin Garcia, and Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Dr. Amy Brown. He then boarded the aircraft to head home to Guyana. Other members of the cabinet, like the Minister of Trade and Industry, Paul Gopi Schoon, Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Kasim Hussein, and Minister of Tourism, Randall Mitchell, saw the president off. The Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs said the visit was an important step in the bilateral relations between the two nations.
And this state visit coming during the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo, which is still ongoing and which has been generally regarded as an outstanding success, both with respect to the large number of exhibitors, the wide range of participants, including investors, including manufacturers and distributors, members of the private sector.
He said they are looking forward to harvesting the results of all these efforts. Dr. Brown said food security is one of the highest areas of priority for the Caribbean community.
And certainly the benefits of this Agri-Investment Forum will be distilled, will be reported, will be analyzed and built upon for the future. As you know, we also have a very important committee and work with the government of the United States of America on this, as well as several other thematic areas. But food security is one of them. CARICOM is well represented there.
The Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs said in the near future there will be a high-level meeting in Washington, D.C. under the theme Food Security.
The time to create a healthier school environment is now. The call came from Chief Education Officer in Barbados, Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw, as she addressed the virtual vendor training hosted by the Childhood Obesity Prevention Program of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados. She says the Ministry of Education will be rolling out a number of new strategies this coming school year.
We will have a cooking competition that encourages students to prepare healthy snacks and healthy dishes using our root vegetables. The idea is for a manufacturer to distribute the winning food item for sale in supermarkets. There will be a reduction of sugar-sweetened beverages sold on the school's compound. Water Wednesdays will continue, but the ministry will be promoting 2 additional days for children to drink water only. Fruit Fridays will also continue, with 1 additional day for students to bring fruits to school instead of unhealthy snacks.
In international news, workers at the United Kingdom's busiest port are on an 8-day strike for the first time in 30 years. The walkout by Unite union members will cause major economic disruption.
The world's largest container ship at Britain's largest container port. The Everalot arrived on Thursday and normally would be long gone by now, but strike action by Felixstowe's 1,900 dock workers has stopped operations. The Unite union says a recently increased offer of a 7% pay rise doesn't keep pace with spiralling inflation. It's seeking a double-digit raise that it says would share surging corporate profits, $71 million at last count, more equitably with the workers.
Now, unfortunately, we've yet to be given an offer which we think we can take back and which reflects our members' aspirations. And talking to our members today, and which we're in a position to do, as you can see, we've had that message sent back to us loud and clear.
Felixstowe Port says it was reminded in recent days by the Bank of England of the inflationary effects of big pay rises. The port company accuses the union of using the workers in a national struggle.
On average for our workers, this is an extra £3,500 in cash to them each year. The action that they're taking now, that Unite is making them take, and Unite haven't put this offer to our workers, but the action that Unite is making them take is actually going to take the best part of £1,000 out of their pocket.
The question is how far the effects of this shutdown will ripple through the UK economy. The port says the effects will be manageable, pointing to the lessons learned during the supply chain disruption of the pandemic. Certainly the Everalot isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and some industry analysis suggests other container shippers are already offloading their cargo in Europe instead of the UK. The union accepts there will be major disruption and says that it could carry out further strikes as it seeks what it says is a fair deal.
In sports, West Indies lost their one-day international series with New Zealand 2-1 after going down in Sunday night's decider at Kensington Oval, Barbados. West Indies batted first in the third ODI and posted 301 for 8 in their 50 overs. Kyle Mayers top scored with 105, his second ODI century with 12 fours and 3 sixes, while skipper Nicholas Perran got 91 with 4 fours and 9 sixes, and Shea Hope added 51. Trent Bolt took 3 for 53. The Kiwis replied with 307 for 5 or 41.1 overs to win by 5 wickets. Captain Tom Latham was the player of the match as he led with 69. That included 6 fours. Daryl Mitchell added 63, Martin Guptill 57 and Devon Conway 56. Jason Holder took 2 for 37 and Yannick Siraya 2 for 77. This marks the first time that the Kiwis have ever won an ODI series against the Windies in the Caribbean. New Zealand spinner Mitchell Santner was named the player of the series. Stop experimenting. This is the caution dished out to the selectors of the West Indies team. Speaking on the recently aired episode of Line and Length, executive producer and cricket commentator Barry Wilkinson said that we just don't have the depth of cricketers like the bigger nations.
Like Australia, England, South Africa, that we can afford to toss people up the order, down the order, and try things. I don't think we can do that. I think we have to stick to something that is going right for us and work with it for an extended period of time. I speak to the case of the opening batsman. Brandon King, I think, has been our best opener. There's no Evan Lewis. Doesn't make sense crying over spilt milk. He's not with us. But I think Brandon King is the man who we should be opening with in T20s and ODIs. Let's stick with him. No need to drop him. No need where he doesn't have a good score for 1 or 2 matches to not play him. Let's stick with Brandon King. The other man that should be opening, I believe, is Shamar Brooks, because I'm not in favor really of Kyle Mayers opening the innings, because you also have him now opening the bowling. He opened the bowling in the 2 matches that the West Indies lost. And I think it's just a little bit overwhelming and perhaps just too much for him at this stage. So if we learn anything, it's let's stick with a very settled middle order. Let's stick with a very settled opening partnership, and let's do too much experimenting.
Mr. Wilkinson says West Indies needs to give more bowling time to Akeal Hussain.
Akeal Hussain has not played Test cricket. Therefore, he doesn't need any rest. He had that rest perhaps when they played against Bangladesh. Now is his time to be playing. If he was playing IPL, then he would be playing every 3 to 4 days, traveling all over India, and it would be this big helter-skelter thing. You know, the players come here and they get too comfortable about talking about getting rest. And when they're playing the IPL, I don't hear them complaining about rest. So don't do it here. I think the selectors have learned, let's be more stringent and let's be more strict when it comes to having a settled lineup and a final 11.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Follow us on all our social media pages at PBCJamaica. And remember, we are the People's Station.